Folks, when I made my recent video about the strongest character in every Street Fighter game, I felt like one of the games that sparked the most discussion and maybe the most controversy, the most rage at me from the comments was Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So I thought with Third Strike coming back to EVO this year for the first time in many years, and with Combo Breaker, a recent major happening that had some pretty surprising results in top 8. We had Ibuki in top 8, Akuma, Hugo in top 8, and Ryu ended up taking the whole tournament. So I thought it might be a fun idea to rank every single character in Third Strike. Not only will I be discussing how strong I feel they are in my personal opinion, but also whether I think you should bother learning the character. If you're thinking about picking up the game, I think now is a really good time. There's a lot of excitement for the game, what with EVO and everything, and all the other tournaments that are happening like the Jazzy series. So it's a great time to pick up the game, and who should you play? I'll try my best to let you know. So let's hop into the list. Folks, before we get into it, I wanted to tell you about the sponsor for today's video, Rocket Money. Have you ever gotten one of those emails that's like, hey, we're raising the price of your subscription to our streaming service? And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm still subscribed to that streaming service? I signed up to watch one show like 8 months ago. I've been paying for it ever since. Well, this extremely embarrassing situation does not happen to me anymore, and that's all thanks to Rocket Money. Rocket Money is the all-in-one personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower your bills, and manage your money better. In addition to identifying all your recurring charges and unwanted subscriptions, which you can cancel directly through the Rocket Money app, by the way, it's very convenient. Rocket Money also helps you lower your bills by negotiating your internet service, your cable, and your phone bills all for you. This is something they actually did for me. I got a little alert on the app that was like, hey, did you know you're paying more than average for your internet service? Let us help with that. And without me having to talk to my ISP at all, they just went in, they did all the work, and they got me a lower internet bill every month. So if you want to save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/jmcrofts or click the link in the description to get started for free. So thank you guys for using that link, and thank you as always to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. All right, let's start at the worst character in the game, who in my opinion is gonna be Sean. So Sean was actually really good in the previous version, Second Impact, but they kind of nerfed the crap out of him in this one. They really wanted to make him a joke character. He does have some decent normals, like his crouching medium kick is not that bad and his sweep is not that bad, but overall he is a downgraded Shoto in most ways. His Dragon Punch is really bad. You can see heavy version 9 frames of startup. What the heck? And then some of his moves just have really tragic frame data, like this quarter circle back move is -4 on hit, which means it's punishable by a lot of things on hit. Also, this overhead attack that he has, -3 on hit. A lot of characters can punish this with super. So these moves are just kind of dangerous to throw out, even if they hit. This overhead as well, -4. Like, his frame data is so bad, it makes him really dangerous to use, and you get punished on a lot of stuff without doing too much damage yourself right back. So yeah, Sean, tough stuff. Let's move on to the other mega trash character here, which I'm going to say is 12. So 12 does have the air dash mechanic, which is pretty unique and actually somewhat powerful. He also has a few decently strong poking normals, but his big problem is he just does no damage on anything. He has no good ways to confirm into super that deal like good damage. He's got this, which does like nothing, way less damage than just doing the super straight up. If he lands like a stray parry, which happens a lot in this game, a lot of this game is about parrying, he just really can't do any damage off it. His best punish is either just raw quarter circle back heavy punch, or half the time his best punish is literally just throw. So yeah, while his neutral is definitely not bad and he can be a really tricky and annoying character, he has to land like 5 times as many hits as the opponent, which really hurts his usability. So I definitely wouldn't recommend playing either of these characters. They are just too difficult to make things happen with unless you're a super experienced player already. And I would kind of say the same thing about this next tier. These are going to be the D tiers, and I'm going to start it out with Remy. So a lot of people say that Remy's biggest issue is that he's a fireball character in a game with parry, so you can't really like have the threat of chipping the opponent with fireballs, which is true to a degree. It does hurt him, the fact that you can parry his fireballs. But even with this downside, Remy's fireballs are still like a fairly strong tool. He can use them to force himself into good positioning and plus frame situations, even if the opponent parries, so it's really not that bad. I would say similar to 12, his biggest problem is he just really has a hard time dealing any damage, and keep in mind that a lot of his punishes you're going to want to end with flash kick, right? But the problem with this is it requires charge, and if you tap down or forward to parry, you're going to lose charge and not going to be able to get like any good punishes unless you have super available. So he has a really hard time dealing damage, and similar to Sean, his frame data is notoriously weak as well. His crouching medium kick cannot be canceled, and it's -8 on hit, which is horrible. It can be punished by a lot of stuff. So his fireball game legitimately is very annoying and hard to deal with, but once you kind of get in close and force him to try to make a comeback, he deals no damage, and his normals are so weak that it's going to be really, really hard for him to make it happen. Next up, also in the D tier, I'm going to put Q. So Q has a few things going for them. One of them is that his rush punch is legitimately a very annoying attack. The light version is 13 frames, which is almost unparryable on reaction. They need a really good prediction to be able to react with a parry, and he can hit confirm into super on hit, so this actually becomes a pretty solid threat. His taunt is also famously really strong. If you guys don't know, his taunt increases his defense, so all of a sudden, once he has 3 taunts up, he's going to be taking very little damage from the opponent's attacks, and it's going to be really hard for them to make a comeback. And finally, his Kara throw is very, very strong. If he holds back and Kara throws with medium punch, he moves forward very, very far, which makes him a hard character to pressure, because if you leave a gap in your block string, especially when he's in the corner, he's going to have a really easy time interrupting you with Kara throw and switching sides and getting himself into a good position. So these aspects of Q are really annoying, and I think he's a good scrub killer character. Just if you don't know high damage combos, it's hard to even do enough damage to kill Q. But of course, he does have a lot of issues. Primarily, his normals are really awkward and bad. He has very, very few cancelable normals. Like close medium kick is like his only real cancelable move that he can use in combos. But then if you're accidentally too far, you're going to get far medium kick and you won't be able to do anything. So a lot of times his punishes are messed up because he doesn't really have any far cancelable normals whatsoever. So if you're really good at this kind of annoying, like poking long range style, he can definitely be decent. But once you fall behind with Q, it's really hard because his combo potential is so limited. It becomes really hard to make comebacks, and you won't have the opportunity to get taunts off if you're getting pressured too much. So Q is a really hard character from behind situations. So let's move on to C tier. I think if you really like this style of characters, you can definitely make things happen with these guys. We're going to start out with Alex. Similar to Q, Alex is a character with a handful of really good things that are just in like a bad package. So some of his good tools, he has some good long-reaching pokes. Standing medium kick, crouching medium punch is a very, very strong poke. His jump is very annoying to deal with. His jump heavy punch reaches down really far, and if the opponent is overly defensive against this, he has the threat of power bomb. EX elbow slash is actually like low-key one of the better moves in the game. As you can see, 9 frames of startup make it essentially impossible to react to with a parry. You can go for a red parry on the second hit, but it's still really hard and is going to require really good execution and reactions. So what are Alex's issues? Similar to Q, doesn't really have any combos, can't really get anything off of his lows. Like literally his only option for a low combo is short super, which I believe is a 1-frame link. All his supers are kind of bad as well. You know, his super art 2 is definitely his best one, but it has the issue of if you're from far away, you're not going to get the last hit and you're going to be punishable. So this super is dangerous to use in a lot of situations. It also doesn't work at all versus airborne opponents, which is really tough. He's also just like a very gimmicky character with moves like his DDT, which are not really very useful against good players because they're just going to duck it and punish you easily. So lack of low threats, lack of combos, and just kind of a knowledge checky, gimmicky nature. Again, he can be really strong against newer players. You can definitely destroy people online with him if they're not really good. But once you get to that high level, he's just a little too unsafe and doesn't quite get enough reward compared to the top tiers. Also in C tier, I'm going to put Hugo. We got 2 grapplers here in C tier. So Hugo actually has some pretty amazing normals. His standing medium punch is really good. Crouching medium kick, really, really good. His jab is really good and annoying for opponents to deal with. But he also has some very bad normals as well. Crouching heavy punch, this move is just tragic. Standing heavy kick as well. This move is really jammed janky and you shouldn't ever really use it. Clap is a really strong special move. The frame data on this is pretty amazing. You can even combo multiple claps together. And of course, being a 360 character, he can get really big damage punishes if you ever parry something, or if you get a 720, which is definitely doable with this character. You can just deal massive damage and make comebacks. So he has a lot of strong elements, but at the end of the day, he's just extremely slow. A lot of his moves are very, very slow to come out and easy to punish. And he is huge, so he gets hit by everything. There are a lot of combos that only work on him. So he's a very hard character to close the gap with, but once you do, he can be very explosive. And we've seen in lots of tournaments, Hugo has done well, so he can definitely compete. You just really have to be patient and be able to survive that really difficult neutral when you're playing such a slow and clunky character. All right, we're moving on to B tier, and this is going to be a big tier. I think this is where the characters start to be pretty good. These start to be characters that I would definitely not dissuade you from playing if you like them. Just keep in mind they're not going to have the same level of broken tools that the top tiers do. So we're going to start out with Elena. So Elena is actually like a pretty annoying and tricky character to fight. She has some really good pokes. She has really good high-low pokes as well. She can keep you guessing whether it's going to be overhead or low. And then she has really good strike throw. She has a really good Kara throw that moves her forward a lot. And then she has heavy kick, which will allow her to become airborne and beat the opponent for trying to throw her. So honestly, in neutral, Elena is a very, very frustrating and difficult character to deal with. But her big issue is she's really just not dishing out very much damage. She's going to have to hit you a lot of times. She doesn't have a cancelable low into super other than light kick, which she's not able to chain. She's pretty easy to high parry, and this high-low mix-up becomes a little bit less threatening, but she's still pretty solid, and you definitely shouldn't be afraid to try her out. Just keep in mind you're going to have to land a lot of hits to win with Elena compared to some of the better characters. Next up in B tier, I'm going to put Oro. So Oro is a pretty interesting character. He's kind of like a frustrating, like poking plus fireball character that can be really annoying and tricky to get in on. And then if he lands one good hit, a parry or a shimmy or something, all of a sudden he can start dealing like massive damage and even setting up tricky unblockables and things like that with his super. And he's also a very high stun character. You can see stuff like his strong heavy kick poke deals massive stun, as well as a lot of his common combo setups will deal big stun as well. So damage and stun, he's definitely got in spades. But his big issue, I would say, is that it's kind of hard for him to like safely apply pressure and safely get combos started. He involves a lot of guessing, let's just say. You're going to be guessing a lot with standing medium punch, and like his only real option off of a low is to go directly into command grab, which is really unsafe, minus 15. So it's pretty dangerous to go for these kind of mid versus low shenanigans trying to catch them parrying. Oh yeah, also it's kind of hard for him to keep the corner. All his throws trade places with the opponent. He literally doesn't have a throw that keeps the positioning. Also, this move, which is a hit grab, also switches sides, and that's going to be how you're ending a lot of combos. So yeah, weirdly, it's kind of tricky for him to keep the opponent in the corner, combined with his kind of high commitment way of playing. You can't really do safe stuff to apply pressure to the opponent. You got to make the right read, but if you do, you will blow them up in a big way. So he can be a fun character, but a little bit difficult if the opponent is not falling for these big parry shenanigans. Continuing through B tier, I'm gonna put Ibuki. So Ibuki has some extremely powerful tools. A lot of her pokes and her normals are really, really good. They reach really far. Her frame data is also really insane in general. Crouching light kick is +3, which is pretty ridiculous. Stand jab is +6, which honestly, it feels like it shouldn't be like this. It feels like this is a bug, but it is what it is. Stand medium kick is +4. Forward medium kick is +8. Which is just absurd, and this move is safe on parry. You can't even punish it by parrying. Her damage and stun are also really high in the right situations. She can get like crazy damage and stun people if she gets the right read, if she gets a good parry, a good jump in. She has good ways of messing up the opponent's parries with stuff like her kunai and her multi-hit target combos. So what are her issues? Well, she has very low HP. Only Akuma and the twins have lower HP, so she dies very fast. But I would say by far her biggest problem is her hitboxes. A lot of those moves that I talked about that are really good and really abusable with good frame data, just don't work that well against a lot of the cast, especially a lot of the top tiers. Chun-Li and Yun have really small hitboxes, and it turns out like very few of Ibuki's strong moves actually work against these characters. Look, even this move just whiffs on crouching Chun, which is crazy. So she definitely still has stuff she can do. You know, towards medium kick is still a stupid move. Crouching medium kick is still pretty good, but at the end of the day, like, she doesn't get anything if this move lands. Chun gets a super if her crouching medium kick lands, so if you're trying to play that footsies game, it's just not that rewarding with Ibuki. You really want to be pressuring the opponent and rushing down and trying to get those big hits, and when a lot of your moves just don't really work the way they should, that becomes a lot harder. So certain matchups I feel are really, really hard for Ibuki, largely due to hitboxes. Alright, and one more character I'm going to put in B tier is Necro. So Necro is another character that is extremely explosive. It really only takes like 2 touches with him, and then the opponent is like completely dead. You could do a huge follow-up combo here. And yeah, like easy stuns, really high damage if he gets a big hit off of like a low parry or something like that. But I would say the issue is it's a little bit hard for him to actually get that started. So he can control neutral decently with some of his long-range normals. These moves are not horrible, although parry does reduce their usefulness a little bit. His drills are actually really annoying too. These moves can be really tricky to deal with, and he can set up situations where you don't know what side it's going to hit on. Sometimes it like hits on the back and then he teleports to the front. But when it comes to actually landing clean hits, his slow movement and his really slow jump are going to make it hard for him to get combos started. And while normally a good game plan would be utilize this spinner move, which is going to help him close the gap, and he is always going to be +1 and get pressure started, the problem is good players are going to red parry the second hit, which can make it pretty dangerous. All of a sudden, you're really at risk just throwing this out randomly because you can get red parried and die for it. So while Necro is the type of character that you can never count out because he always has the potential to make a crazy comeback and win the round, he can be a hard character to get things started with, and similar to maybe Oro, he doesn't have too many safe ways to get started and apply his pressure. But again, if you can get the right parry in the right situation, you can just completely turn things around and make the opponent explode. So he's a really fun and exciting character for that reason. All right, now we're moving up to the A tier, and these are the characters that, in my opinion, you should not really second guess picking them. If you want to learn the game, these characters and above are all going to be really good choices. So we're going to start out with Akuma. So Akuma is high-key a pretty broken character. He is actually truly ridiculous in this game. Even in a game with parrying, Red Fireball is an extremely strong tool because if they parry it, you know, they're still going to be forced to deal with whatever you're going to do when you land. His Hurricane Kick in this game is actually like a ridiculously broken move. You can see 2 frames of startup. Yes, it's -5, but it's going to be hard for them to know what version you're doing. So, you know, if they try to go for the punish, there's no absolute guard in this game. So if they let go of blocking at any point during the Hurricane Kick, they will get hit by the later hits. And a lot of people say that Akuma has the downside that he has no EX moves. But the thing is, he doesn't really need them because his Dragon Punch is invincible without spending EX. The only other character that has this is Ken on his heavy Dragon Punch. And like, he has Red Fireball, so he has a multi-hit Fireball without spending EX. His Hurricane Kick is like probably as good as most characters' EX Hurricane Kicks just by itself. So he doesn't really need EX. And his supers are really good as well, by the way. You know, he can do Dragon Punch into super to make himself really hard to parry if the opponent's trying to do empty jump parry. Common strat in this game, Akuma is one of the only characters who doesn't really have to worry that much about it if he has meter. And of course he has Raging Demon, and Kara Demon is really strong in this game, so it's actually not that hard for him to land Demon if he gets the meter for it. Oh yeah, and by the way, he has a teleport. And against a lot of characters, this is actually pretty broken. Against characters like Urien and Oro, who want to knock you down and set up an unblockable, he can just teleport out of it, which is crazy. So all these amazing things going for him, all these broken mechanics. So why is Akuma only A tier and not S tier? Well, it's because he dies way too fast. Lowest health in the game and a small stun bar. And it turns out a lot of characters in this game really like going for stun. It's actually like a core game plan for a lot of the cast. So we can get an easy stun there. And then if we just do a super, Look, he's dead already. We could do like the easiest combo in the world with Makoto and kill there. So, yeah, really low HP and really low stun are a bigger issue than you might expect in this game because of the prevalence of stun and how easy it's going to be for characters to one-touch or two-touch you. So that is a major downside for Akuma, but he's still extremely strong. He's just a little bit unforgiving for that reason. Next up in A tier, I'm going to put Ryu. Do you guys feel this is a little bit high for Ryu? I don't know. Let me talk about it. I hate to say it, but the biggest reason why I'm putting Ryu this high up is gonna be his Super Art 3 Denjin. So a lot of characters I've talked about so far, you know, I've been like, well, they have this good tool, that good tool, this, but they don't have something truly broken to make them top tier, and Ryu does. And it's Denjin Hadouken. This is one of the best supers in the game. What do we think? Like third, fourth best super in the game, maybe? If you don't know, the reason why this is so good is it's unblockable. Ken can be holding back, and he still gets hit by it, and he gets stunned. It is an extremely high stun super. Now, of course, this is a game with parrying, so they can parry to get out of the super. But because you can throw a fireball first to mess with the timing, or you can switch, you know, how quickly you end up throwing the super, you can delay it. You can also adjust the number of hits that you do by spinning the stick faster and faster. So all these elements combined make the move really unpredictable. So no matter how badly things are going in the round, you can just get a random hit with Ryu, set up a Denjin, get the stun, and deal massive damage and bring the round back no matter how far behind you were. Okay, so outside of Denjin, how good is Ryu? Well, he's decent, okay? He's got some good normals. That normal's good. He can do stuff like this. His fireball is pretty good. His EX fireball is really good, but you don't actually want to use it that much because you want to save your meter for Denjin. His close medium kick is +2 on block, which is actually pretty amazing, and it must be parried high. He also has this 2-hit overhead, so he has good ways of trying to convince you to block or parry high, and then he can catch you low with his good crouching medium kick into Tatsu, which is one of his best setups for Denjin. Similar to Ken and Akuma, he also has a fast dash, so he has good ways of like instantly setting up throws or other mix-ups. So you don't have to use Denjin, you can use Shinku Hadouken, but he's going to be a lot more fair with that. If you want to play unfair Ryu, definitely pick Denjin, and all of a sudden he is up there in strength with a lot of the strongest characters in the game. All right, and closing out A tier here, I'm gonna go with Yang. So Yang is honestly a pretty straightforward and simple character, which makes him very well suited to beginners. Dive kick is a super easy move. You don't really have to worry about how am I gonna get in and start pressure on the opponent. The answer is always dive kick, and you can make the dive kick whiff and go into a command throw into a combo, which is pretty strong with him. His crouching medium kick is a pretty deranged move because it can be canceled into Rekka. So Rekka is like his main move. This is like 90% of your game plan with this character is pressure them with Rekka. They don't know how many hits you're going to do. It's going to be hard to parry because you can mix up the timing. EX Rekka does really ridiculous damage and stun. His close medium punch is also a pretty deranged normal, +7 on hit, +6 on block. Is that real? How is it so advantageous on block? So he can lock you down with stuff like this, and if you try to jump out or, you know, do anything, press any buttons during this, you will get clipped. Imagine having a character whose good normals work on the small hitboxes in the game. Couldn't possibly be a Ibuki player. So, yeah, he's pretty straightforward. You dive kick, you do crouching medium kick, you do Rekka, you try to do his lockdown pressure, utilize his really strong normals and his strong dive kick, along with that risk of command throw mix as well. And you don't even have to worry about using super with this character. Honestly, like, just use all your meter for EX Rekka and you'll be just fine. All right, I'm actually going to make another tier here, and we're going to call this A+ tier. I'm going to start it out with Dudley. So Dudley, one of his biggest strengths is actually his jump. He has one of the most annoying jumps in the game. It's very fast, and his jumping normals reach down very far and are really, really hard to anti-air. And if he hits you with this really amazing jump, yeah, you're in huge trouble. You're going to just take insane, massive damage. But probably his biggest strength that most people know about is going to be his high-low mix-up. So he has this move, forward heavy kick, which is 12 frame overhead, essentially an unreactable overhead, and on hit, you can go into his super. And of course, off of lows, he can go into his super as well. He also has this sweep, which is a huge party starter for him, and he can go into all kinds of crazy combos off of as well. And his frame data in general is just really broken, Standing heavy kick is +4 on block towards medium kick. This move is pretty annoying to deal with, +2 on block and only 5 frames of startup. That is insane. So he's really, really dangerous up close. I would say maybe his only real weakness is that he doesn't play footsies that well. He does have these fierce buttons, which are long-range normals, but in general against characters like Chun with her long crouching medium kick, he doesn't really have great ways of contesting that, but I mean, he's got the jump, right? So if you just jump in once, you're going to be +1,000,000. You're going to be rushing the opponent down. What are they going to do? Then if you ever get the knockdown, you can just throw out the rose, go for high-low mix-up, and the world is your oyster. So if he just gets in once, he's very explosive, hard to block, really crazy rushdown character is Dudley. All right, I got one more for this A+ tier, and it's going to be Urien. You know, similar to Ryu, perhaps, Urien is a character that is pretty good, but then his super really, really takes him over the top. So, you know, he's got fairly strong pokes. Standing fierce, crouching medium kick is a good poke. One of the better sweeps in the game as well. The range on this is just ridiculous. If he ever catches you jumping without parrying, yeah, you're just dead because he's got this anti-air fireball. And also, speaking of jumping, his jump roundhouse is like truly one of the most annoying and busted moves in the game. This thing is so hard to deal with, and there are a lot of matchups where it feels like you could win with just one button. So, you know, his neutral is definitely solid. It's definitely pretty good, but we wouldn't really be talking about Urien if it weren't for this move, the Aegis Reflector. So the simplest way to use Aegis Reflector, it's pretty straightforward. You just knock the opponent down, and then you mix them up, you know, either with a low or with an overhead, and then if it hits, you get a combo. But what really takes this move over the top is Aegis Unblockables. So because you cannot block both directions at once in this game, and because the Aegis and Urien count as attacking from opposite directions, essentially you create an unblockable. So the opponent cannot block this. They can try to parry, but it's really tricky, and depending on what Urien does, he can mix up the timing. So yeah, Aegis unblockables are truly ridiculous. They are very hard to do. They require a lot of very specific techniques, and you have to use different ones depending on which character you're fighting. But for the top level Uriens who have downloaded all this stuff and really solved the character, he becomes a huge, huge threat with meter. So yeah, it can be a little bit hard to maybe get this opening to get the down fierce, but once you do, similar to Makoto, who we'll talk about in a little bit, he can just win an entire round off of one hit. All right, speaking of Makoto, let's move on to the S tier and start out with Makoto. So at first, Makoto might feel like a really slow and clunky character that's kind of hard to play. If you look at her walk speed, oh my gosh, it's so slow, but take a look at this. Do you see this? This dash is just really, really crazy. So she can dash like half the screen, and it's essentially unreactable. The opponent can try to press something afterwards, but she can even do like dash parry and catch them pressing buttons. She can do dash into low, but of course she can do dash into command throw. Her command throw is one of the most threatening aspects of the character because she gets a combo off it. She can really do a ton of damage by landing this command throw. Plus, this command throw is really safe to go for because even if the opponent jumps out, a lot of the time you're going to recover in time to deal with their jump anyway. And this becomes especially disgusting. I showed this a little bit earlier. If you combine this with her Super Art 2, you can deal really stupid damage off of a command throw and potentially get one-touch stuns. That's a big thing this character wants to go for. Some other really stupid things Makoto has: standing medium punch is +6, and it leaves you in range for command throw afterwards. She has this really fast overhead, 13 frames, and it knocks down, so you can use this to go for mix-ups when they get up afterwards. She also has one of the most annoying jumps in the game. A lot of her jump hitboxes are absolutely massive, and she can mix up her jump timing using her axe kick, making her really hard to anti-air. And she can do instant axe kick, which is a really fast and hard to block overhead. So her mix is just absolutely incredible, and she can really just start mixing you up by just double tapping forward. Like, that's all she has to do, and all of a sudden she is in your face, dealing absolutely massive damage. So one of the most threatening characters in the game, oftentimes wins rounds off of one touch. That is the strength of Makoto. All right, I got one more S tier for you, and it is Ken. So Ken is just the all-arounder king of third strike. He really does everything well. He's got strong normals. He's got a lot of good frame advantage. His standing heavy kick is a really amazing poke. Crouching medium kick is good, just like all the other Shotos. He's got the fast dash, so he can instantly close the gap and start applying pressure with his plus frames. He has really good cross-up mix as well. His jump medium kick is a pretty deceptive cross-up, as well as his air EX Tatsu, which is just really stupid. You can cross them up from like nearly a full screen away with this accursed move. But of course, the main thing we want to talk about here with Ken is going to be his Super Art 3. This is one of the best supers in the game. He gets 3 stocks of it, and it's a pretty short super bar, so you can get them pretty quickly. He can hit confirm off of lows really easily. He has a medium punch, heavy punch target combo, so again, that's going to be high parry only. He can pressure you with this sort of fake 50-50 of low versus mid. This move is essentially instant startup as well. I think it's 2-frame startup, so this combos off like everything. He has multiple overheads that he can link into this move. Let's see, yeah, 11 hits, so that linked. He can even just do like crouching medium punch, hit confirm off the one hit. If you get hit by it, he'll go into the combo, and then he also has a good throw game as well. And an underrated aspect of the super, maybe one of the least talked about aspects, is he can actually mix you up really well afterwards. Because this is an untechable knockdown, it can be really hard to predict what side he's going to get on. He can mix you up high or low as he's coming down. So a very, very tricky character to block once he gets that hit. And just all around, his footsies, his control of neutral, and his rushdown are really good overall. And this super just takes him over the top. So that's why Ken is up here in S tier. But S tier is not enough. We have one more tier that I think is even beyond, which is going to be God tier. So you guys probably know the gods of the game by now, and it's honestly really, really close. Which one is better? I'm going to make everyone mad by once again saying we'll talk about Yun first. So basically everything I said about Yang still applies to Yun. He's got this extremely potent dive kick, which makes rushdown really easy. He's also got this target combo that Yang doesn't have. He can hit confirm off this. He's got this rush punch, which Yang also doesn't have, which is a good gap closer. You can see if you hit just right with this, it's actually 0 on block. So we managed to get in, you know, without leaving ourselves punishable. He's got this really good crouching medium kick, just like Yang, but unlike Yang, he doesn't really have anything safe he can cancel into. He kind of has to take a little bit of risk off this move, but it's still really good, especially when you combine it with his super. So the super Ganejin, this is really what takes Yun over the edge and makes him top tier. This allows him to do really crazy combos. Basically, everything is going to juggle when you're in this mode. He can do some really, really high damage stuff if you have the execution, or you can just keep it simple and like everything is just gonna work. So yeah, like his juggles with this are really, really good. And an underrated aspect of this, when the meter runs out for this, you're still gonna build like a decent chunk of the meter back with the end of your Ganejin combo. So usually he'll build up like a third of the Ganejin back, and then it really doesn't take much. Just whiff a few more normals, all of a sudden you have it again, because the bar is so short. Why is the Ganejin bar so short? And it's not like it doesn't last that long. Like, it lasts a pretty decent amount of time. So I don't know what is up with that. Oh yeah, and another underrated aspect of Ganejin is he is considered to be doing a super the entire time he's in this. So essentially, this game has a priority system with the hitboxes, and everything will essentially have super priority when Yun is in Ganejin, which means that it's really, really hard to contest his normals. Like, whatever you try to do is generally going to be beaten out, so he really just like wins neutral the whole time he has Ganejin, and he can become this just wall of moving hitboxes that is impossible to contest. So he just wins neutral, and he'll start mixing you up. Of course, command throw is still going to be a major threat here, so you can just do the command throw, start your combo that way. So yes, basically all of Yun's game plan is oriented around Ganejin. Just get the meter as fast as you can, and then try to find an opportunity to activate. Whether it's by hit confirming, you can of course just do this, enter Ganejin, and just start your party that way. Or you can even do something simple like just knock them down, activate, and all of a sudden they are going to be on the back foot and have a really hard time dealing with the insanity of Ganejin pressure. So Yeah, Ganejin is insanely broken. Why is Yun not number one? Well, you know, arguably he is. I definitely understand if you think Yun is better than the next character we're going to talk about. I don't blame you. I would just say that he is a very high precision character. You really have to have your combos maxed out, and there's a lot of opportunities for drops. If you waste your Ganejin and don't really get a hit off it, it feels pretty bad. Of course, he has the second lowest life in the game next to Akuma, so he dies really, really fast, so that can be an issue as well. But don't get me wrong, he is definitely a broken character. Ganejin is probably the best super in the game, and that's why he's up here in God tier, is Yun. All right, last character here, number one in the game, in my opinion, is going to be Chun-Li. So Chun-Li as a character, she just completely dominates neutral. So someone corrected me. She doesn't actually have the fastest walk speed in the game. She has the second fastest, or maybe third fastest. I think Ibuki is actually the fastest, but Chun walk speed is just ridiculous, and if you combine that with her amazing normals, she has without a doubt the best normals in the game. Stand Fierce is just ludicrous. Massive damage, huge reach, only 8 frames of startup. Crouching medium kick, probably the best crouching medium kick in the game. Reaches super far, and it's cancelable, which is going to matter a lot later. All of her heavy kick normals are just insane. This one can be used to bait throws since it counts as airborne. Standing medium punch is crazy with the hitbox and the startup. Crouching medium punch reaches crazy far. Best jab in the game, 2-frame startup jab, and this jab can actually combo into super, which is a little bit silly. Let's just talk about this super, all right? So this is what takes her kind of over the edge. She has these really amazing normals, and she has the fact that this whole time she's building huge amounts of meter, and then if she ever lands crouching medium kick, she can hit confirm into super. This has a late cancel window, which means you have more time to hit confirm than with any other character. So at high levels, players are very consistent. They will only do this super if the crouching medium kick connects. Also, basically, any time she ever parries anything or gets like a punish situation, she can just do back fierce into super. It's really easy, and you get a combo off of super, of course. If you have 2 supers, you can do something like this. First of all, that's a link, so that works. Then you can go universal overhead into another super, so it becomes a high-low mix-up. And look, the opponent's essentially dead. So just by doing the thing that Chun-Li wants to do anyway, which is, you know, zoning you out and being really annoying with these massive normals, just by doing this, you end up incidentally building a ton of super and getting the opponent's HP low. And then if they ever decide, you know, that they actually want to play the game and try to get close to you and apply pressure, yeah, crouching medium kick into super is going to completely shred them into tiny ribbons. Oh yeah, and also she has one of the best car throws in the game. Super long reaching throw. So her throw game is really abusable as well. You can be at like crouching medium kick range, you know, and trying to play around that move, and all of a sudden you just get thrown from like half screen. So yeah, Chun is obviously absurd. Why do I think that she's better than Yun? I guess the big reason I would say is just that a huge amount of the cast just like really cannot do much at all against Chun. I think Necro is a good example, or a lot of these more mid-tier characters. Necro, Oro, Ibuki, we talked about the hitbox issue against Chun, but just in general, these are characters where it's going to be really hard for them to get offense started because her control of neutral is so dominant, and she really doesn't have to take risks, right? Like, at the end of the day, Yun, he still needs to get Ganejin and get in and start, you know, messing you up with his Ganejin combos. I just feel like there's more inherent risk to that. There's more risk of making an error, whereas Chun doesn't have to really do anything. She can just chill back and abuse these moves. And if you're not like Yun, if you're literally any other character than Yun, or maybe like Ken, arguably, like what do you do about this character? You just don't do anything. You just lose. So yeah, Chun, she beats every single character. She has a good matchup, except Yun. They go about even. And for that reason, I think that she is number one in the game. So that's just my opinion, guys. Hope you enjoyed the list, and again, don't get too mad at me if you disagree, but I welcome a spirited discussion down in the comments. Let me know what you think, and with that, I'm going to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody!